Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with a Spain news update, and residents in one of Spain's most popular tourist areas are now complaining that there were too many tourists there last summer. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a donation or by buying me a beer or a coffee. Many thanks for that. And thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your continuing support. Now, let's get into the news, and as we know, Spain had a bumper summer tourist season this year, 2022. Millions and millions of foreign visitors came to Spain, enjoying all that the country has to offer. But now some residents in the popular Balearic Islands are complaining that last summer there were just too many tourists. As we can read here, post-pandemic tourism saturates the Balearics. There is a feeling of overcrowding, of invasion of living space. Binibeka is a small village in the south of Menorca. Created in the 1960s as a picturesque tourist postcard, its whitewashed houses are reminiscent of the whitewashed villages of the Greek islands and emulate a fishing village. For years, it has been a discreet tourist attraction, unknown even to many Balearic Islanders, until social media came along. At the zenith of this summer, the first purely post-pandemic one, Instagram was throwing up 50,000 mentions of Binibeka, dubbed the Spanish Mykonos. Tourists came to have their photo taken. They bring their clothes and change while they posed, announced the locals, who are now leading a campaign against the overcrowding of this development of 165 homes. They come into our houses, they walk around shamelessly, they don't respect the silence. So tourists on the island of Menorca in the Balearic Islands here in Spain, spurred on by social media sites like Instagram, invading small villages that up until recently didn't have any tourism at all. And now locals complaining that said tourists are invading their living space. So for people in that village, welcome to today's world, unfortunately. Now, as we know, a lot of people in the north of Europe are looking for ways to lower their energy bills this winter, and for some, a move to a country like Spain could be the answer. The Spanish town of Benidorm in the so-called Costa Blanca has long been a popular destination for people from all over Europe. It has become a place for people to save on high energy bills thanks to its mild climate. It's cheaper to stay here than in the Netherlands, says John Butter, a tourist. It's much colder there. You have to turn on the heating, and you have to pay the energy company for that. You have to be crazy to stay in the Netherlands. You can enjoy the money you would otherwise spend on gas and electricity, he said. The tourism sector is eyeing the opportunity to increase the number of foreigners coming to the region. It can cost around €50 per night in a hotel during the low season, and flats are also getting more bookings. So there we go. If you're in the north of Europe, for example the Netherlands, and you want to get out of that cold climate, the Costa Blanca or the Costa del Sol could be the place for you. And as we saw in that article, places like Benidorm here in Spain are welcoming people from the north of Europe with open arms. Now, if you're living here in Spain in a city of 50,000 people or more, you might have noticed new signs going up around the place limiting vehicle use. But then again, you might not have, because only 13% of cities in Spain will meet their obligation to have low emission zones by 2023. The implementation of low emission zones is one of the most tangible measures of the climate change and energy transition law, because it affects mobility by incorporating traffic restrictions in cities to combat pollution. This regulation from May 2021 establishes the obligation for municipalities in Spain with more than 50,000 inhabitants to have, before 2023, areas in which access, circulation and parking of vehicles is restricted according to their polluting potential. There are 149 cities in which more than 25 million people live, more than half of the country's population. With just over 2 months to go before the deadline, only 20 or 13.4% say they will comply. Of those 24, 6 already had their low emission zones in place before the climate change law. So keep a lookout for these new low emission zones here in Spain if you live in a city with more than 50,000 people, and especially if you drive a car. And if you drive a vehicle that the government considers pollutes a lot, you might not be able to enter those areas at all. Now, a vet in Valencia is in trouble today and has been arrested for illegally cutting the crests of more than 4,000 fighting cocks. The Guardia Civil has arrested a 59-year-old veterinarian in Valencia as the alleged perpetrator of a crime of false documentation and continuous crime of animal abuse for illegally cutting the crests of more than 4,400 fighting cocks in up to 17 provinces in Spain, including Zaragoza. The arrest, carried out as part of Operation Cornelius, took place after learning of the decresting and debarking of roosters by a veterinary surgeon practicing in the province of Valencia, from whose veterinary clinic the investigators requested the relevant records for this activity. So, a vet arrested in Valencia for decresting some 4,400 cocks, and hard to believe that cockfighting still takes place. But obviously, after reading articles like that one, it is alive and well in Spain. Now, the main opposition leader here in Spain, Alberto Núñez Feijóo, is making headlines today. Why? Because he can't speak English. Alberto Núñez Feijóo does not speak English. If he were a private citizen, that would be irrelevant. It would not even be news. But he is a politician who aspires to preside over the government. His baptism of fire in Europe in the meetings of the PP around the last summit highlighted his inexperience in European affairs. His meetings in Brussels indicate that he should undertake another apprenticeship, that of the English language. Today, it is key for anyone who gives lessons in competence and competitiveness to the public, and even more so to young people. It is ridiculous that a waiter from Lloret should have a better command of the English language than a presidential candidate, for it has become a requirement for communicating with their counterparts. So, some interesting and surprising news for me there. The opposition leader here in Spain, Mr. Feijóo, does not speak English. I automatically presumed that he would have skills in the English language. After all, current Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez speaks English fairly well. But Mr. Feijóo, obviously somebody that hasn't taken the English language seriously up until now. So, what do you think? Do the main politicians here in Spain need to be fluent in languages like English if they want to get deals done in Europe? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Brady: if the proof of COVID vaccination for entry into Spain is relaxed for Brits, is it also for other third countries like the US? Yeah, Brady, thanks for the comment, and the simple answer to your question is yes. Spain's COVID rules and regulations have been relaxed for all countries, not only the UK, but for countries like the United States as well. This was announced by the government last Thursday, and I think they came into effect last Friday. So definitely some good news for people that have not been able to travel to Spain because of those COVID rules and regulations. One here from Howard: is it easy to find work in Barcelona as a skilled handyman? Can't speak Spanish yet, but can fit a bathroom. Yeah, Howard, thanks for the comment, but to be completely honest, I have absolutely no idea if it's easy or not to get a job as a handyman in Barcelona if you don't speak Spanish or Catalan. But the good news is that I am sure that there are plenty of people watching this video who can answer your question, Howard. So please let him know in the comment section below if not knowing the local lingo will hinder his chances of getting a job as a handyman in that city. I know that here in Madrid it would be difficult to find a job doing that if you didn't speak Spanish, because the English-speaking community here is just not big enough, and there are lots of other people offering the same services that do speak Spanish. If you went to a place like Malaga, the situation might be different, but in Barcelona, don't know. One here from ML: being big cities is not an argument for anything. Big cities have existed for a long time. Madrid and Barcelona were big cities 50 years ago, but they weren't dangerous. Gee, I wonder what has changed. Yeah, Mel, thanks for the comment, and you're right, just because it's a big city shouldn't be an excuse for high crime rates. But as we know, unfortunately, big cities tend to attract crime and criminals for some reason. And I imagine that it has something to do with the anonymity aspect of living in a big city. If you live in a small city and you commit a crime, there are more chances that somebody will know who you are, but in big cities, that is not always the case. And are cities like Madrid and Barcelona more dangerous than they were 50 years ago? I don't know. I wasn't here 50 years ago. And if they are more dangerous, what has changed? I've got no idea, but I'm sure that a lot of people will tell us what the problem is in the comment section below. One here from Joe Blogs: I have to say, even after 14 years here, I find Spanish cuisine rather underwhelming. I never once sit at home thinking, oh, I really fancy going to a Spanish restaurant tonight, but I do often find myself urging for Thai, Italian, Chinese, Indian, and sometimes a British carvery, or even fish and chips. On top of that, apart from the menu de el dias, quite often I think Spanish food is quite expensive for what it is, and why do they always serve you just meat and chips or some other kind of potato? What happened to a serving of vegetables? And when you ask, you have to order a plate of vegetables separate, which costs an extra €9 or so. Spain isn't a country which I am impressed with when it comes to food. Yeah, Joe, thanks for the comment, and thanks for writing the controversial comment of the day. In your opinion, Spanish food is not that good. In fact, it might even be overrated. And if I'm completely honest, I sometimes also get bored and fed up with the lack of choice and variety on the menus at many restaurants here in Spain. And I do sometimes crave for Thai, Chinese, Indian or Italian, or just something different. But again, I'll open this one up to the viewers. Do you, like Joe, find Spanish food underwhelming, or do you think it is absolutely fantastic? Let us know in the comment section below. One here from Ian. It's still beautiful weather in Mallorca. I live in Can Picafort. The forecast high for tomorrow, the 24th of the 10th, is 29 degrees Celsius. Ian, thanks for the comment, and good to see that you are enjoying the good weather there in Mallorca today. 29 degrees Celsius. In fact, I believe the weather is going to be very good in a lot of parts of Spain this whole week. Here in Madrid, it's been a little bit wet recently, but the temperatures have been quite good. And for the rest of this week, we're going to have mid to high 20s. And I can't remember the last time that the weather was this good at the end of October here in Spain. But it can't last forever, and no doubt next week or the week after, winter will arrive. And finally, one here from Bridget. Hi Stuart, I can't believe that you have never had sangria. I do find it a bit sweet, but on the Camino de Santiago, we often shared a jug of sangria as a celebratory drink after a long day on the trail. Tinto de Verano is the local version, less sugar and spice, and cheaper than sangria, enjoyed on ice. Yeah, Bridget, thanks for the comment, and it's not that I have never had a glass of sangria, I've just never ordered one at a bar or restaurant here in Spain. In the past, on a hot summer's day, my father-in-law would quite often make a jug of sangria, or at least he called it sangria, probably a little bit different to the stuff that you get at bars and restaurants in the tourist areas here in Spain, but it was quite tasty, spicy as you said, and a little bit sweeter than the classic Tinto de Verano, which is what a lot of people drink in the summer months here in Spain, which is just basically red wine, ice, and a thing known as casera, which is a type of lemonade. But hey, if you like sangria, don't let me put you off drinking it. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.